Hi everyone, hi, Trisha here, welcome back to my kitchen. Today I'm going to do pressure canning of beef stew. I know I did a video on this before, but this is actually going to be cold pack beef stew. So I thought I'd bring you along and let you see. We've actually ran out of all of our stew, which is not good. It's one of our favourites. So I'll bring you down and let you see what I'm going to be doing. I've got my canner sitting on the little burner, which I always prefer to use. You can see it there. And it's just sitting cold. And I've got my jars and everything else washed. And I actually went ahead and I've prepped a lot of vegetables. So just brought these out of the freezer, let them defrost a bit. They're just chopped onions. Same with the carrots. I blanched these and froze them, and I've just put cold water over them for a little while just to soften them up a wee bit. I've got a huge pot of potatoes here. Just here. I'll get my spices out of the way, you'll be able to see. And we're just going to start and dry this up. So I thought I'd bring you along. Just get a bit of this. I like a bit of space when I'm working, and these are the jars we're going to work with today. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of these Fruta del Prato jars. They're nice big wide mouth jars. I bought a load of these. There's about, I think I got about 90 odd. And I've just washed them all out. They're nice and clean. The only thing is I can't get 7 of this size into my canner, so I'm using one of these narrow mouth Aran mason jars, because I know these will all fit, and I've also got an Aran pint jar. So I'll just have it in that tray just to get handiness. And we're going to start packing these. So I went ahead and I fried off the ground mince. It's 12.5% beef mince, and you can see the fat there on the bottom. But I've also got fat. I had it steeping in another tray, and what it was steeping in, I put it in the fridge, and you can see how it's solidified on top. So I'll scrape all that white stuff off, and that good stuff underneath is all flavour, and it'll go into the stock. But it's going to be cold stock, so I've already got it, but we'll go on to that in a minute. Alright, so nice clean hands. Make sure you wash your hands before you start any of this, guys. And I've got my canning funnel. I'm just going to put, let's see how much we need in this. I'm going to put a whole cup of ground beef in. We like our stews meaty and thick with loads of vegetables. So I'm putting a cupful of ground beef into each one. And if there's anything left, not to worry. It'll come in handy for something else. And just flatten down your, I don't want more than a cup. I think a cup's enough. And this was 3 pounds of ground beef. And I just fried it off, didn't put any salt or pepper or anything in it. I just fried it off as it came, because stock, I'm using Knorr stock, and I've tasted it. It's not overly salty, but I'm going to be adding a wee bit of salt to the jars anyway, so I don't want them to be overly salty. And the little pint one, I'm just going to put half a cup of mince in. So And you know me, you know me by now, I write everything down. So if you see me scribbling, you'll know I'm just writing my recipe down. Now I haven't got that much left of my mince, and I might do another session off camera. If not, I'll freeze this and I'll use it for something else, or I'll make pie or something with it. So 1 cup of mince, and I'm also going to put in, next thing I'm going in is my carrots, and I'm going to put, we'll see, a full cup, a full half cup, slightly, it's full there, you can see that's going in these big jars. I'm sure you don't want to be standing watching me doing this, but it's basic. Anybody that's over here in Northern Ireland, if anybody happens upon the video, I really would like them to see the whole process. So that's basically why I want to take my time and show everybody exactly what we're doing here. I'm going to put a bit more in that, and I'm going to put about a 1/4 cup in that little one. That's the carrots. I haven't very many of those left, so they'll come in handy with the rest of the beef. Now, onions. I'm going to put a good half cup of onions this morning in each jar. We love our onions, so good half cup. 3, 4. I'm going to put slightly less in there because I don't want to run out. I'm putting onion powder in as well, so I'll actually give it more onion flavour, and a wee bit more in there, and the rest of these are going into this little pint jar. I'm just scrape them in there. I don't want all that water, so carrots, and I'm going to put a tablespoon of Worcester sauce. It's going into each one of these. No, sorry, half a tablespoon. I don't want to make it overpowering, so I'm just going to put half a tablespoon in to each jar, just for a wee kick. And you don't have to put this in if you don't like Worcester sauce, but anything to give flavour. It's all about getting flavour into your jars. That's the Worcester sauce, and I'll put even less in this one. I'll put 1 teaspoon in the pint size. That's 1 teaspoon. And I'm going to put some dried onion in. I'm going to put just roughly a teaspoon, a good heaped teaspoon, because there is onion in there after all, but this is just give it an extra kick. And slightly less in this little one. That, and what else are we going to put in here? I'm going to put garlic. I'm going to put garlic powder. Get it open. And same, that's a half teaspoon, so I'm going to put a good size, a heaped half teaspoon. It's going to be sufficient. And you can put any herbs, spices, whatever you like in here. And and slightly less in this jar. And that's that. And what else are we going to put in? Oh, I know what I want to put in. I want to put in tomato puree. I don't have any. All mine's frozen in pucks, so I freeze them like this. So that's a tablespoon of tomato puree is going into each one. I'll just give it a nice rich flavour. And I'm actually gonna, I'll chance a full one in there. It'll be fine. We love tomato puree anyway, so get that sealed and back in the freezer. And pepper. I want to put pepper in. But I'm just going to put a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper in each one. I don't want it too strong. And I'm keeping all these in my head, so I'm going to write them down in this book here. But you've seen me do that a million times. And just 1/8 teaspoon of pepper in this little jar. And I know there's salt in the broth, but I'm going to put in 1/8 teaspoon in each jar. Potatoes like lots of salt, but if they want more salt in it, they can add more. I'll just add a little tiny bit to this jar. And that's pink Himalayan salt. I just grind it down. You don't want to be using iodized salt like Saxa table salt. You don't want to use that. The iodine won't work very well for you. So right, so that's our jars basically done. It's very quick. It's actually quicker filling the jars than it is chopping everything up. So I went ahead and made just this here is Knorr. I use this for stock, and I've made up 3 litres worth of it. I had to heat it up a little bit to get the granules to dissolve, and I've also added a 1/2 tablespoon of our favourite Bovril, which is a beef yeast extract. Been asked about this before. It's absolutely beautiful, and I've tasted the broth and it's got a good beefy flavour, which we like. And because I had to heat it up to dissolve the stock powder, I've let it cool down again. So you can't put hot stock into these jars or there's a risk they would break. So I've let it cool away down. I mean, I could put my finger in there, there would be no burn. Getting back to this, remember I was saying about I drained off all the fat? Well, I'm just going to get a knife and you see what I'm doing? I'm peeling away the fat, the solidified fat on top. I don't want that in my jars. I don't want any of that white fat in. I'll just get something to put this into and get rid of it into this bowl. So all that white fat's coming out. And believe me, you don't want to be wasting all that good stuff underneath because it's all lovely flavour. That's what chefs, etc. would be making their beautiful gravies out of. You get all the flavour of the beef. So say if you put this into your fridge, that top fat's going to solidify, and it's sort of easy to just poke through it. And see the bottom? That's all good stuff. It's good flavour. quite a lot of fat coming off that. It wasn't all 12.5%. It was some that I bought on offer, but I won't be buying it again. I like sticking to the minced meat I know, and that's how much fat come off. You do not want that in your jars. So always fry off your meat, and mince is better fried off or it'll go all clumpy in your jars. So you're better actually spending the time to fry off your mince and drain it. As I say, discard or do what you like with this. Some people would keep that to fry with, but not in this house. I usually make you seed balls up for the birds outside and just clump it together. So, and this lovely jelly in the bottom is all flavour. So what I'm going to do is just to scrape it all into the stock. You don't want to be throwing that away, it's delicious. And I'm just going to break it up. So all the goodness is essentially come back into the meat, into the jars. I just hope I've made enough stock here, but we haven't got our potatoes in, so they'll take up quite a bit. And we'll set that aside. Get rid of some of this. And get our funnel on and get our potatoes done. These have been sitting I just had them sitting covered. Oops. The water wants to fly around my feet, which is not good, Trish. I just dry that up. Who doesn't have accidents in the kitchen, huh? I know I most certainly do. Okay. I'll get the rest of that whenever I mop the floor. I'm just going to scrape my potatoes out just to get rid of some of that water, because the cup will hold it. I'll work with this for now, and what I'm going to do is just fill the jars. I want to get them as full as I can with potatoes. We'll just do each one, and then we can change whenever we get to. You just want to push everything down. You want to be debubbling these, so, and as you see, we like our stew really thick, so I'll cram as many potatoes in as I can, but I also want a good proportion of liquid in here for heat penetration. Get some more, just drain that water off, and I think I'll have enough to run another batch, which will be very good, very handy. And I'll just show you the size of the potatoes. I've cut them all down to about that size. Don't want them too small or they'll all break up and go into mush on you, but small enough that they'll cook through. You just want to pack them in. And don't forget these carrots and potatoes and all cooked down in here, and the onions. So you want to try and make as much in your jars as you can, but get as much stock in as you can as well. Now, in my little jar, push that many in for now. You just want to push them down. We'll hold back on those for a second. Get my funnel for my debubbling tool, and I'm just going to try and push everything down so I can get more potatoes in. Do that on each jar and push it down. People say if you can go like that they'll settle, but I find pushing them down is better. So I'm just trying to push down as much as I can to make a wee bit more room on each jar. And you can see that already. They'll find their own space. The little jar. You want to fight with me? This little jar wants to fight. It says there's no more room in here. And there is room. There's plenty of room. So what I'm going to do is just top these off a bit more with more potato, because there's quite a substantial amount of meat in there. So once you push them down, just fill them up again to the under the inch head space, just like so. It's actually surprising how much you can get into these jars. And this is the fun bit. I love doing this. It's actually, as I said before, it's quite addictive. Once you start canning, you'll be canning up everything you can get your hands on. Okay, so I'll get another few in here. Okay, so that's enough potatoes. So now I'm just gonna get a wee thing for the broth, and I don't want to waste any of that. And I'm going to fill these up to the inch head space, which is here, guys. So just fill them up to the inch head space. It's just under the rim. Oops, a bit too much in that one. I'll actually go down. It's bubbling down in there, so, and I don't want to waste any of this. So the tail end's dripping in the other jar there, which is good. An inch. You hear them bubbling there. It's filling down between all the air pockets. Okay, bring you over here. Don't want to waste you. And the little pint. You hear all those bubbles? That's all our pockets. And we'll just leave that because we might need more. So what I'm going to do now is to get my debubbling tool. Move these over so you can see properly. This is a very important step, guys, so never ever don't do this step. Go down the sides, push your debubbling tool towards the food, and air pockets will come up. You can see bubbles and see the way the fluid levels gone down. So I'm actually paranoid about this step. I do it quite a lot. People probably say I'm just doing over, but hey ho, I feel comfortable whenever I do this step properly. I'll just go down in there. And go down in the centre. They'll always find a way to get down in there. Just manipulate the food out of the way so you can get down in. And I'll adjust the headspace in that one, which means my liquid level's gone down, so I need to put more fluid in to bring it up so they're all at the 1 inch headspace before you put your tops on. Down into the centre. Regular canners will probably be saying she offer marbles showing us this all the time, but as I say, there's not many people over here in Northern Ireland that runs pressure canners, and if they do watch this video, I want them to make sure that they're doing it as safely as they can. Down in the centre. And push that food down. You don't want any air pockets in here. Air pockets are breeding grounds for bacteria. So you make sure you debubble really well. It's a safe process if you treat it with respect and follow all the procedures. Okay, so just straight round the sides. You'll see all those bubbles coming up. And down into the centre, give it a good wiggle. I think I did this one, but hey ho. Push the food down in. I'm going to be checking the headspace on these. This is the narrow-headed jar, and to be honest, I would rather have the wide-mouthed jars for the likes of this. These are good for like pasta sauces. But anything with food in it, I prefer the wide mouth with like hard food, because you can get down into it better. But you can see how much they've gone down each jar. And don't forget this little one. This little one's getting the same treatment. Down into the bottom. And down in the centre, and you can see that you can see that I need to adjust the liquid levels in these. I'll just show you this. I've showed you this before, but this is the little debubbling tool, and it has your headspace guides on it. So if it's an inch headspace, it's from here till here before the food hits the jar. So you put the inch bit here on top of your jar, and you should be able to wiggle that without the green bit touching the food, which is not, well, it's not here. Once I get these pushed down in, you want to make sure you leave at least an inch headspace. And I'm just going to top them off with a little bit more of this delicious broth up to the inch headspace, no more. It just takes little tads, even that little bit can make all the difference. And I've a good wee bit of that left, so that'll not get wasted either. There's no way I would be wasting any of this food. Right, so clean towel, make sure your hands aren't greasy for this bit. And I've got just ordinary vinegar in a little bowl and a clean cloth. And you want to go, I wrap it around my fingers, dip it into the vinegar, just squeeze any excess off, and get around those rims really well cleaned, guys. If there's anything on those rims, those fat residue from the meat, there will not be a seal. Your lids won't seal. And make sure you change out the cloth, get a clean bit of the cloth each time. And go right around the tops. You'll be able to see, and that's actually a good opportunity for you to feel around the tops to see if there's any chips on your jars or anything. But I always check that when I'm washing them. Give them a good scrub before you use them. And I've got my lids overheating in water. You don't have to do that stage because these are processing for longer than 10 minutes. But I just feel that they seal better if you heat them up. So you see the way I'm changing my cloth out all the time. You don't want to be wiping each jar with the same part of the cloth, because you're only transferring from one jar to the other. And the last thing you want to do is put the effort in to do these and for them not to seal. That would just be a travesty. Sorry about that, I'm scraping those off the glass. And down to our last two. And the little pint is going to need a wee bit of attention as I scraped that fat on it, so I'm going to change this cloth out. You want to spend my time starting doing this and the jar's not to seal, so make sure you give them a good wipe. Now I'm happy enough for that. And we just get the lids. So these have just been sitting in lukewarm water. They were on a wee simmer there, but I got called into doing something else there, and they've cooled down a bit for me, but they're still not room temperature, they're still hot. So center your rings, or your lids, sorry. And there's my little one. And my narrow mouth. And these were all washed, of course. Always wash your lids, and they say you don't have to wash your lids and stuff, but I just put them through soapy water and then rinse them off well and get your rings on. And it's finger tight. Your thumb and two fingers, finger tight. Once you can't turn anymore, that's the time to stop. A little bit of onion or something's going on with that. So, 2, 3, you can reuse these bands. You can reuse these over and over. To be honest, I have reused the lids before, as long as there's been no damage when they've been opened, or you can't see any damage to the seals. But probably twice is the limit that I would be using them, and then I just use them for like dry storage. You don't want to go on there. That's it. So finger tight. And the last one. They like to muck about these. Sometimes you just turn them back on themselves, and they'll be easy enough to get down in. Alright, so that's that bit done. They're ready for the canner. All this water and stuff on top, don't bother about it. That's absolutely fine. I'll just bring you around and we'll get these loaded. Alright, so if my canner's sitting, it's sitting no flame on at all. There's 3 inches of water in the bottom. There's a little line on this Presto right here, and it shows you where to put your 3 inches of water in. I've also got the rack in. You don't want your jars sitting on the bottom of the pot directly on the heat, or there's a big chance they could break. And just going to load these jars in. There's a strategic way of putting them in, because them big jars are sort of more square, so I sort of got a hang of how to get these all in to make the most of my canner. You don't want to be running with, you want to get as many jars as you can into one load, you know. So 7 jars, 6 quarts or 6 litres and 1 pint. My little pint sitting there. That's absolutely fine to put pints in with your quarts. And I'm just going to put the rest of the vinegar I had is just going in. It's just to keep lime scale, etc. off the jars for cosmetic reasons, no other. And I'm going to check my lid. You always check your lid. Look through daylight with this here, the vent pipe. This one, make sure it's always clear. So I've looked towards the window and I can see daylight through that. Super important. Make sure your safety plug is intact and it moves. You can see it moving there. And the wee lock, I grab both sides and make sure it's tight. And make sure your gasket is sitting where it's supposed to be sitting. I've oiled this up after the last canning session, so it's good to go. Always check your lid, guys. Right, so we've got our water in, we've got our vinegar in, we've got our jars in, and I'm just going to line the arrows. It goes this way. You can see the little arrow here. There's a corresponding arrow on the handle over here. So just line your arrows up and the lid will fall down, and just press down slightly and make sure you pull your handles so that they're ajar, and that's how ready to go. So we're going to get the flame on. Just get my wee burner here, my wee lighter, and turn the gas on. And get some flame. And that's it. So I'm just checking that the flame is on the center of the base of this big pot, so that the heat gets evenly distributed. And I've turned her up, not to full blast, but medium high. I don't like putting the heat too intense on this in case it warps the bottom. And I'll bring you back at the next stage whenever we start to get a bit of heat in here. I'll bring you back and show you the next stage. Okay, so you can see now this has been sitting here on the medium high heat. Because it's cold, it's took it about 20-25 minutes to get up to this steam. There's a constant steam stream coming there now. And what I'm going to do now is put my timer on and time for a full 10 minutes. This is the canner pushing all the air out, and you want that constant steam stream. You don't want any breaks in it. before you set your timer. So I'll just grab my phone. Want that nice constant stream there. You can see it. So I'm going to set my timer now for 10 minutes. Let the canner do its work. Start. And in 10 minutes I'll bring you back. You can see that nice steady stream of steam there. Like a choo-choo train. You don't want to miss this step. It's very, very important. This is a canner pushing all the steam, the water turning the steam, pushing all the air out of the canner, and the little lock's actually pushed up because there's a lot of steam pressure in there. So once my 10 minutes comes up, and I'm going to put my 10-pound weight on, which is this little jiggler. Comes in 3 parts. 5 for, comes in, the first bit's 5, then I process at 10 pounds for my altitude. So that's a 10-pound weight. And there's another little weight, 5 pounds. If you needed 15, you would put the next ring on as well. But I'm doing 10 pounds pressure. And you always want to check what PSI you need for your altitude, how high you are above sea level. Anything under 1,000 feet is 10 pounds of pressure, 10 PSI. So that's what I'm using. I'm going to let this go for another 3 minutes and then I'll be back. And don't be intimidated by that noise, guys. It scared me at the start, but it's absolutely fine. It's just steam getting pushed out of a small hole, so it's basically all it is. And I'll be back whenever the alarm goes off. Okay, 20 seconds left. You hear that noise? Don't be scared of that. It's only little droplets of water getting pushed up out, and it's absolutely fine. You respect this piece of kit and you'll have no problems at all. So we're down to 2 minutes. Once my alarm goes off, I'm simply going to set my weight on, and don't be scared of doing that. Just turn that off. Okay, so I'll put my weight on now. So pressure's can't escape out of here. So it has to. You'll see the pressure starting to rise on the pressure gauge. And once I get up to 10 pounds of pressure, I just use the gauge as a rough idea. And my little weight, the jiggler it's called, it'll start to move. And I'll bring you back whenever we get up to a bit of pressure. As I say, you probably heard this all before from me, but it's from anybody that's watching this over here in Northern Ireland and wherever else. If they get into canning, it's sometimes nice to see the full process, even though it is repetitive. Okay, so we'll be back shortly. Okay, so we're at about 8 pounds of pressure now. It's slowly building pressure here. Canning's not something you want to be trying to fit into a time. Canning will take the time, if you know what I mean. So don't start this if you've got something planned, because it takes quite a while to heat up and to process and to cool down, and you want to do it exactly right. So no cutting corners. You want your food processed properly and safely for your family, and you want to treat this with respect. Once this gets up to pressure, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, if you get an emergency phone call, whatever, something happens out of the blue, just turn your heat off and walk away from it. Make sure your heat and your gas is turned off and walk away from it. Do not attempt to take the lid off. Do not attempt to lift the weight off. Just leave everything to cool down. There's a lot of pressure in there. Even though it's not jiggling yet, it's almost up to 10 pounds PSI, which is quite a lot of pressure. So you can see the little jiggler starting to move here, ever so slightly. It's giving a wee jiggle, and my gauge is reading almost 10. So what I do is wait until I get a constant jiggle, and my gauge is definitely on the 10 or slightly past. I'm going by this weight. So I haven't adjusted the heat at this stage until I get a constant jiggle, and then I'll turn my heat down now in very slow increments. So just turn it down a little bit, leave it for like a minute, and make sure your jiggler is still rocking. Turn it down another little bit. And if your jiggler stops rocking at any stage in this process, guys, you'd have to stop the whole process and start again. It means that you've lost pressure, so there's not that constant level of pressure in your pot. And just turn it down ever so slightly. You do not want to just tweak it round to like a low heat. Just take it down in small increments. And I've actually put a mark on the dial here. I don't want to move my camera in case it goes off, but there's a little white mark there, and I know to turn my off arrow almost round beside that, and it'll still keep that constant jiggle. You don't want this, like you hear that noise, like it's hitting off the vent pipe. You don't want that noise. It's letting too much steam out of your pot, and because these are litres, this is going to process for 90 minutes. I know there's a pint in there. If it was all pints, it would be 75 minutes, but most of them are litre quart jars, so the process time for them is 90 minutes, and the pint is fine. It'll process the extra 15 minutes alongside them. So I'm turning my heat down a little bit again. You can see it, a little jiggle. Well, I can get it actually lower than that, so it's all trial and error when you start, but you soon sort of become accustomed to how far you can adjust your heat without your weight stopping. The further I turn it down, the more I leave it a little bit longer, just in case it stops. So I'm going to adjust it again. And I'm going to set my timer now for 90 minutes. One hour 30. Start. Alexa, set a timer for 1 hour 30 minutes, please. And say I do have a cooker, but I like to use the gas, this little camping stove. It doesn't owe me anything. It's been here for donkeys. Long time, and it's still working fine, and I just prefer the gas because I can regulate it better. That nice little rock it's got there, that's sort of like the rock you want, but as I say, you don't want this to stop at any time. So I'm going to let this go, guys, and I'll bring you back whenever the processing time is up and I cool her down, and we'll get the jars out. Now, as long as you can hear that noise, now you don't have to stay in the kitchen with it, but if there's any dogs about or children, make sure they're not near this. It's not a toy. Make sure there's no kids, no pets or anything can hear it. I've actually connected to a gas cylinder which I've barred off with a chair so the dog can't get near it. It means I can even go and sit in the living room, have a coffee, whatever, and as long as I can hear that noise, I know it's running fine. Alright, I'll bring you back whenever the time's up, guys. Okay, so I've had this nice little gentle jiggle going on this past 90 minutes, and I think Alexa's about to speak to me. Alexa, off please. Now, time's up, 90 minutes is up, so all you do is turn your heat right off. Don't touch anything. The wee jiggler will stop pretty quickly. Turn my gas off. The jiggler stops quite quickly, but you do not touch anything. I'm going to wait until the pressure valve reads 0, so the dial's gone down, and at that point this little lock switch will drop, and it's only then I will gently touch the top of the jiggler and give it a little bit of a movement. And if you hear any noise or pressure at all, just leave it for a while until it comes down. But at that stage it shouldn't be, and I'll lift the jiggler off. But I'll bring you back whenever we hit 0 and the little locks fell. Lock switch is just dropped by itself, so the gauge is down to 0. Just put your finger on that and wobble it about, and you would hear if there was any pressure. There would be like a hissing noise. No pressure there, so it's safe for me to lift the weight off. And all I'm going to do is to unlock the lid, just pull the handles apart and just let it sit like that. I'm going to leave it there now for 10 minutes. It's just let the jars to get a chance to acclimatise to the kitchen temperature. I've been sitting all night over on the table, and I've just transferred them over here, so we get to take the little rings off and see if they've sealed. You'll notice that there's been a bit of siphoning, and I put it down to the mince, the higher fat contact mince that I got. I've never had this with the regular mince that I always use, which is 12.5%, and I won't be buying this one again. So take a ring off and lift the jar just by the lid, and if it holds, it's perfectly sealed. And you can see where the fluid level's up to, so that's perfectly fine. If the fluid level was down any further, like down to here, I would probably consume these or freeze them. I like the fluid level to be up quite a bit around my jars, but looks good. You can actually feel like where it's siphoned, which means the fat and the liquids come out of the jar before it's actually sealed, and it's all down the sides. So these are going to get a nice hot soapy water bath. We just want to check the rest of them to see. Oh, that band's so tight. I'm hoping they're all sealed, but that's a chance you take with Canon. That one's sealed for definite. And this one. Yeah, and just put your hand underneath when you're lifting them. You don't want to hit the jars off the hard surface. And check your jars. Yeah, I can definitely lift all these without the lids coming off, so that's a sign of a seal. Very good. And you want to wash your bands as well. When you're going to wash your jars, wash your bands, get all that fatty feel off them. If you're going to store them again, no doubt you can see like a residue. You want to wash them well as well. And this is my little pint. It's cute. But you can see even though I fried this off and skimmed the fat, there's still fat in there. So that's one of the reasons why I won't be using that 20% fat mince again. I'm just going to wash my hands off here. Okay, so each jar is going into this. Just have it sort of lukewarm water, nice bubbles in it, and get your cloth and do right around the sides of the jars, especially around the lids there. Just take all that excess fat off. You don't want that smelling up your cupboard where you store these. I still find it strange to call my storage cupboard a pantry, but that's what it is to me. There we go. So nice and clean. No more fat under, all down the sides. You can't feel anything on it now. So I'll do that with each one of these. I won't do them any harm. They're not going to be in hot water too long. It's just to clean all that yucky off. I don't want yucky jars sitting in there, because over time that would smell. I'm still in my pajamas, guys. It's how keen I was to see these. Anybody that does canning knows that feeling. You're so eager to see what if your lids have sealed. And it's satisfaction when they all seal. You don't want to go through this process and your jars not to be sealing. It's just a nightmare. You can feel them. Feel a complete difference without all that sticky fat, slippy, horrible fat down the sides. And makes them look nice when they're clean. And my little solo pint. It's good to do pint size of these as well, guys. If somebody else turns up for dinner, you can always open the pint size and add it to your quart size jar. Or sometimes my other half would take these with them for lunch. Just microwaves it, and they come in handy. So that's them washed off. Now equally with a clean towel, I usually let these sit until they dry, but I'm just going to dry this one off. And I'll show you what I do now. There we go. Doesn't that look good? You see the way everything's cooked down. So you want to try and pack as much in, but make sure you get plenty of fluid in your jars as well. And I reckon that's going to taste really yummy. So all I do now is, with one of these chalk pens, I just write stew on here, and I also put the corresponding date of when it was made. simply because you know me by now. I keep a wee book beside me and I write down the recipe in the book of what I've made, and I put the date on the recipe sheet as well. So if I open this and the flavour's not to your liking, I know exactly what's going in here and I can tweak it for the next one. And it's just a good wee idea to keep your canon journal, I like to call it, of all your recipes. So if I open this and the flavour's not to my liking, I know exactly what I've put in there, so I can tweak it for the next lot. And always put a date on your finished products. So basically I'm going to do this with the rest of these and get them all put away. And basically that's it. Alright, so I'm going to get the rest of these all done and get them put back into the pantry. It's cold right there, so it's just a load of long shelves, built-in cupboards I have, which I've turned it into my pantry. They laugh at me saying, "You've got a pantry, Trish?" I said, "Yeah, of course I have. My granny had a pantry and I have a pantry now." So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you're new to Canon, hopefully this will help you go through the stages. If you have any questions or anything, just put them down in the comments button. But please hit the like button, and I'll see you next time in my kitchen. Have a good day, guys. Bye for now.